Welcome to Financial Plan and Explain. I'm your host, Mike Menninger, certified financial planner, owner and founder of Menninger and Associates Financial Planning. I'm delighted to have Jeff Schubert here today. Jeff, thank you very much.
Mike, thank you. Appreciate being here.
Jeff is the owner of 3 franchises called Budget Blinds. Each of these 3 franchises are located in the southeastern PA, but why don't you tell me a little bit about it? Tell me about your business.
Absolutely. So franchise is a window covering treatment business. It's a franchise, and my wife and I, we own 3 territories, as Mike has said, Budget Blinds of Downingtown, Budget Blinds of Kennett Square, and Budget Blinds of Phoenixville. So each franchise that is owned also has individual zip codes where we can potentially sell for a customer. We sell to new construction, existing construction, and we basically cover all your windows when you have that need. And everybody, Mike, as you know, has a need to cover windows.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I know. So. If I had known you then, I just got it all done at my house on the whole first floor. And we put in, I guess they're called plantation shutters or something
timeless.
like that.
Plantation shutters are just so timeless.
Oh, unbelievable. So we haven't told my mother yet that we took down the curtains that she made us. That hasn't been released yet.
Let's get the words right. They're drapes. They're not curtains.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We call them drapes.
Okay. So you do drapes too?
Absolutely, we do drapes. We do it all. Yep.
Okay.
So
good to know.
Yep.
So I think of blinds. I think of what we put up.
Right.
And we also had put up over our sliding glass door, like a motorized up and down thing.
Yeah, we call that a roller shade. I think I'm going to try to educate you here.
But certainly with the lingo. That's good. So tell me about it. So when did you buy these franchises? Did you buy all 3 of them at the same time?
Actually, we did. We bought the first 2, Kennett Square and Downingtown. We bought them in May of 2019.
Okay.
Prior to buying it, just background real quick, I was in corporate America. They moved my position, and I'm like, I don't want to move to Florida, so what do I do? What's my next life adventure, right? Mm-hmm. So had already starting researches on franchises, and Budget Blinds came upon. Talked to a friend. He said it's a great investment, something that you really make some good money on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I didn't know anything about blinds or window treatments or anything like that. Didn't need to.
So did Budget Blinds or the company provide you with education on the topic on how to do things?
Absolutely, yeah. So once we purchased the business from the previous franchisee, they sent me to school. So
okay,
we go to school for 2 weeks in California. That's where the headquarters is for Budget Blinds.
Okay.
Go out there for 2 weeks. We learn about all the products. We learn about how to install it. We learn about what the needs are for each individual window, what you would offer the customer. Came back home, and it was like, wow, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? I don't understand why.
Yeah, right.
So
then you bought another franchise after that.
Yeah. So there was another one that came up. It was probably a year and a half, maybe a little over a year that came up. It was actually Budget Blinds of Phoenixville, that's the zip codes that we live in.
Right.
So now that we own the Budget Blinds of Phoenixville, we can now also sell to, if you will, our friends, our family that live in those zip codes in the Phoenixville zip
right.
code.
So that raises a question. I'm not in your zip code, or I'm not in Phoenixville, and I'm not in Kennett Square. What if I wanted to use you?
So we have this gentleman's rule or a policy, that handshake, if you will, that says if somebody in your territory, somebody else's territory, is a friend, close friend, relative, we'll ask that other franchisee that says, hey, do you mind if we go in and sell? And most of the time, I will tell you, 99% of the time, we all agree. It's one house, it's one one friend, whatever. It's not a big deal. Some franchisees might say, well, if you give me a cut, part of the percentage, it's not common. So we can do that, when we have friends in different...
Well, and I'm sure you know all of the different franchisee owners around your territory.
We do. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is that, we get together twice a month.
Oh, do you?
We have a breakfast with the local, and there's about 20 of us. We meet. As a matter of fact, recently we took out a radio commercial, so you'll probably hear Budget Blinds on the radio.
Okay.
We all pitched in.
Nice.
All bought in. It's a 10-month contract that we did, so... we're on 4 different radio stations off Odyssey. If you have the Odyssey app, you can hear us on there too.
Okay, excellent. So what do you see as the advantages and disadvantages? I could see one disadvantage already, but tell me, in your opinion, the advantages and disadvantages of owning a franchise.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I was in corporate, I think I told you, 33 years.
Yeah.
Right? So you have a steady income. You have that insurance. You have all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
You're in corporate.
Security.
That's a great way of putting it. You're comfortable, right? When you own a franchise or any business, where's the next money going to come from? Is there going to be that next phone call where you're going to be able to consult a customer and then obviously over the course sell and install the product? Having a franchise or being your own entrepreneur, you're your own boss. You get to set your own time.
That's beautiful. I know. I understand that.
So there's other tax benefits, right? I'm not a tax expert, but I'm learning from you and our accountant some of these really wonderful tax benefits that you get. We can start a 401k,
Right.
And from what I understand, we can fund it, right? So it doesn't really cost us anything in the end when you talk about taxes and things like that.
Right.
It's just you have to get over that comfort level, if you will, of having that steady income and all that, where you're now out, you're on your own, and you have to be able to, weather the ebonies, right? Those curves of, we got a high time, we got a low time. So.
Right, and it's going to happen. Speaking of high times and low times, it made me think when you bought the business or the 2 franchises in 19. When did you buy Phoenixville?
We bought that in 20. So
20.
Yeah.
Okay, that's exactly where I'm going with 20.
Yeah.
Is how did COVID impact you? Did it make it better or worse? I can see both sides.
So it's, again, another great question, right? So COVID hit. We shut down for, I'm going to say, it was a month and a half. The government shut down the entire state.
It was basically March and April or April, May.
Yeah. So we weren't allowed to do anything. Well, what happened was people are now working from home. They're not going into the office. They now realize that, I'm in my office now, and all this sun's coming in. I never had anything up on the window. I got to get something. So COVID was one of our 1.5 best years that we've had.
Right. And I could see that. And the other thing that happened, and from an economic perspective, is the government was giving people money. And the fact of the matter is that you couldn't spend it. Because restaurants were closed, you couldn't get it on an airline, you couldn't go to the islands, you couldn't do anything. In fact, what had happened that particular year is home improvements shot through the roof. The Lowe's, the Home Depots, the people who were installing decks and pools and everything else like that, those sales shot up because people may have said, well, I'm going on vacation this year and $5,000-$10,000, and I'm not going anymore.
Right.
I got all this extra money they're going to use.
There it is, and that's the money they used. And now, you think about it, now where people are spending money on vacations and stuff like that. So we're seeing a slow period.
Right.
Now is a slow period of time, but that's okay, because sometimes it's a welcoming situation, right? During COVID, when we were busy, it was like drinking from a fire hydrant. Right?
Oh, I know. I hear you.
So now it's kind of like, we're catching our breaths. But as with any business, there's always cyclicals, right?
Of course.
Certain times of the years, the business is higher. Certain times it's lower. During the summer months, people are on vacation, so that's a slower month for us. Now that the holidays are starting to come, people are saying, I've got relatives coming in. I now need to fix it or address these windows. And then, of course, they want it done as soon as possible.
Of course.
A timeline, right? So they have to be measured, manufactured, and installed. So,
my brother runs into the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So. He installs granite. So, and he does. He says that it's around the holidays that everybody wants it done by tomorrow.
Correct. Right. Before relatives get there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, how long does it take from the time that you do the you look at it and it's actually ready for install?
Yeah, so a great question. So depending on the product, the product that you're looking at, what is the solution going to be for that window? So, but average, it's about 3.5 weeks to have it manufactured. So we go out, we measure 3.5 weeks, it's manufactured, it gets delivered to my facility. Then about a week out is when it gets installed. So we tell the customers, exactly, 4.5, 5 weeks. Yeah.
Not bad. Yep. Not bad. Now, are there any tax credits? I mean, I think about installing solar panels, and they give you an energy credit or something. Is there any credit whatsoever with installing blinds?
There is.
There is?
Yes. So there's one that qualifies for a tax credit. It's called honeycomb. Some people refer to them as cell shades. And basically what it does is it absorbs the heat. So when that shade is down, it's absorbing the heat, which is making the room more comfortable.
Okay.
It uses less energy. So there is up to $1,200 a year tax credit when you purchase cell shades.
Really?
Honeycomb shades, yes.
Cool.
And we talk about that. We talk about that all the time when we're doing a consult. So.
Well, and the other thing too is that a lot of people aren't aware of this until they're about ready to leave a house. Is when you sell a property, you run the potential of having a capital gain on the property.
Right.
And if they do, then what they want to do is demonstrate all the different things that they did to improve the property so that they can reduce their capital gains, so that they can reduce their taxes. Of course, I'm always thinking that.
Of course you are. And you should be.
So, but that's good that you get the tax credits. Yep. So what other advantages do you see besides, I mean, it's great to be able to set your own schedule. But what do you see as, so you're setting your own schedule. There's definitely, and I know I can tell you from my perspective because we were working together, it's really cool to be able to have, as a business owner, which you are, is the ability to control your income. You can control income, you can control expenses. And to the point of the 401k, it gives you the opportunity to create your own retirement plan. And under the current new law, Secure 2.0, they're basically, you could set up a 401k and it costs you nothing to do. In fact, you're ahead of the game for certain plans. If you already had something or planned on it, they're reimbursing you for making contributions on behalf of your employees. It don't get any better than that. And then at the end is at the beginning of the year, shall I say, when you're doing your taxes, you have the ability to do profit sharing contributions if you want to control your taxable income.
Yep.
So there's just all kinds of cool stuff as it pertains to that. So we're talking about all the rosy stuff. We all know.
Right.
Not everything is always peaches and cream.
Right.
So tell me some of the disadvantages you see. And I could see one already, is your zip codes.
Right, the zip codes, yeah. So to your point, if we have somebody outside of our zip code, we technically can't consult them, right? Or
without getting permission. Now,
without getting permission, right?
So curiosity.
Yep.
So I can always see that if you go to the next zip code over and you get the permission from the person, do you also clue in the mothership to let them know that you got permission from that person, not that all of a sudden 6 months later he comes back and says, "What are you doing in my territory?"
Yeah. So before we even do that, we contact them, right?
Okay.
That owner and say, hey, is it okay if we, talk to Mike? He's a friend of mine. He's a relative of mine.
Right.
We even go as far as saying how many windows, what product they're, looking at and things like that, just because we want them to have knowledge of it, right? And they don't want to see, I don't want them seeing my van in one of their zip codes, right?
Sure.
So I don't want to surprise them. In addition to that, when we put the product or the order in, Budget Blinds has their own computer.
Sees the zip code.
It sees it and it warns you. It says this is not your contracted territory. Please make sure you notify the franchise. So there's a lot of checks and balances for sure, even on the system there.
So I can see hitting a home run if you're able to get a new development.
Oh, for sure.
And so would you ever run into a situation where it's too much for you to handle? And what do you do if you hit one where it's more work than you can handle?
So again, we rely on our local Budget Blinds partners, right? Mm-hmm. So if we get to a situation where there's just way too many, and listen, we have 4 employees. Mm-hmm. I have 2 full-time employees. One's an installer. One's a design consultant.
Okay.
Myself, Sherry, my wife, she helps with the business, and then we have a part-timer that sets a schedule for our installers. So,
okay.
And then we sometimes call in a part-time installer too. So everybody works for Budget Blinds. They work for Jeff and Sherry, right? So they're on our payroll.
Right.
That's number one, the very first comfort level. If we get, in fact, too large for
too big of a job.
Exactly. We'll call our local franchise and say, hey, do you have any resources that you can come over and give us a hand? It's still the Budget Blinds umbrella. It's just not Budget Blinds of Phoenixville.
Right.
So the customer sees Budget Blinds. Oh, I do have a Budget Blind employee coming in here. So.
And you compensate them accordingly and however that works between them. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. We're at the break point, so we're going to take a couple minutes, and we'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Do you keep up regularly with your investments? Where exactly are your hard-earned dollars going? Are you financially prepared for an emergency?
I'm Mike Menninger, founder of Menninger & Associates Financial Planning. We believe that education and knowledge are powerful, and we want our clients to understand why we are making the recommendations that we make. It's your money, and you deserve to know where it's going, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So call us today to discuss your financial concerns. Welcome back to Financial Planning Explained. I'm here again with Jeff Schubert. Not again, still. Owner of 3 franchises of Budget Blinds. So I want to get a better understanding of the franchising itself. How does it work? Like, you bought the franchise, but how does that work? You paid the prior owner of the franchise, correct?
Correct.
Or you pay budget blinds.
Yeah. So if it's an existing territory,
Right.
and in my case it was, if it's not, it's what they call a gray territory. So nobody has it, nobody
Right.
owns it. You can work in that gray territory with no problem.
Okay.
Until it gets sold, then of course we get notified that there is a new franchisee. No
And then
longer
it's right, okay.
in that territory. But so going back to your question, yeah. So the previous owner, when we bought it from him, he obviously was selling a business, right?
Right.
So here's what it was valued at. Here's what we paid him for it.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, you then pay budget blinds a percentage.
A percentage
Right,
of
your
sales. Right,
Correct.
that's right. That's I forgot what the term is, but it's a franchise fee.
Exactly, franchise fee. And I've done a lot of research on franchises prior to buying budget blinds, and they're very all similar, right?
Yeah, 6-8%,
6-8%.
whatever.
Now, budget blinds is a little less expensive than
Okay.
that. And so that's what attracted us to buying this business.
Okay.
You sign a 10-year contract with budget blinds, and if for some reason within that first 10 years you decide, you know what, this isn't for me, or I'm doing better, I want to retire, or whatever the factors
Or
are.
somebody wants to buy it from you or whatever.
Exactly. As long as you have somebody that wants to buy it from you, you can then sell it as a business, and budget blinds will then say, okay, well, we're just going to renew another 10-year contract with that
them.
new owner.
Okay.
Right. So it's not like you have to go out the entire 10 years unless you don't have a buyer for it.
Right. So now, is there a minimum, like for instance, let's say you're in year 6 and you say, I don't want to do this anymore, but you have a, basically if they're only receiving a percentage of your sales,
Right.
if your sales are 0, it's 0. But do they have a minimum?
They do.
Yeah, I figured
Yes,
that.
they do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Because otherwise you just say, all right, heck with it, I'll just
Yeah,
pick up
yeah.
my
No,
cleats until I'm done.
there's definitely a minimum for sure.
And I would also imagine you don't want that. As with any business, when you're selling the business, you want the books to look good.
Right.
And you want the books to look good by having a lot of revenue.
Sure.
Because that raises the value of your business.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So then if you were to sell the business, there is no cost. You don't have to give any of that to budget blinds. It's basically somebody's coming in to buy your business.
They do ask for a small fee. Again, I don't know what that small fee is, but it might be a couple $1,000s where budget blinds will take that on the sale of it.
Okay.
And then of course you're selling the rest of the business to the new owner.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And that may be their administrative, whatever it is.
And to get that training, the new owners need to go through the training.
Right.
It's to fund all that.
Absolutely makes sense. So, I forgot what I was going to ask you about the franchising. So, all right, well, then I guess maybe I'll remember in a little bit. Anyway. So, walk me through the process of, I know what I wanted to ask you. I'm going to go back to the franchising. So, what does Budget Blinds do for you? Do they do marketing for you? Like for instance, there are franchises out there. Give you a good example.
Yep.
You know what the number 1 franchise is out there?
I don't.
McDonald's.
Okay.
All right.
I was going to guess that, but
And so McDonald's obviously does advertising.
right.
Okay. Does Budget Blinds do any advertising for you?
They do.
They
Yes.
do.
They do it on a national level.
Okay.
Okay, so they will advertise for you on a national level. We'll take care of what they call local area marketing.
Right.
We control that. So that's our particular Facebook page and things like that. Where Budget Blinds itself will advertise on a national level. They ran TV ads at one point in time on what is it, Home TV or HDTV or something.
Yes,
like that.
actually, it's funny you say that. The blinds that I don't even know the name of the company. Okay.
It wasn't Budget Blinds, obviously.
Well,
You would have
right.
remembered it.
I would have remembered it. Okay, but why do you do home shows?
We do.
You do.
Yes,
Like
we
I mean, they had them in Oaks, and that's where we had. It's like a big home show.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, it all depends on the territory, right?
Right.
So if it's in my territory or my zip codes, if you
Right,
will,
right.
we'll do one. As a matter of fact, we're scheduled to do one in. It was supposed to be this month in September. It's at the Kimmel Center. And it's with,
Where's the Kimmel Center?
It's in Philadelphia, right?
Oh, it
So
is?
Yeah. But this one's with realtors.
Okay.
Okay, so we were going to have a show with the realtors, and there's supposedly about 1,000 different realtors that were going to come through the store or through the floor, and we had this whole thing planned. Now they moved it from September to March, So it buys us a little more time to
Right.
get, to get some literature together, brochures and things like that.
And does Budget Blinds provide you with a lot of that literature?
They do.
They do. You probably have to pay for it.
You do, but then, but sometimes if you ask, they say, okay, yeah,
Right.
and then, not only Budget Blinds, but the manufacturers. So keep in mind, we deal directly with manufacturers. So
okay.
Budget Blinds negotiates with window treatment manufacturers. To give us the lowest price. Then we deal directly with those manufacturers. For example, I can deal with about 26 different window treatment manufacturers. I choose not to,
Right.
because it just gets overwhelming.
Right.
But the reason we do is because with Budget Blinds, we have a style and service for every budget. So we can start with the lower end, if that's the budget, or we can say, hey, let's go to, I use Norman Window Fashions for shutters because they're the best in the industry. And you put them in your house.
I think I do have them in my house.
You probably do.
That name rang a bell.
You do, because that's the only thing I will sell is the Norman Window Fashion plantation shutters.
Yeah.
Again, timeless. They're a permanent fixture, and they just add charm to a home. And you have them, so you probably know.
Oh, I definitely.
Charm,
I think it just added a lot of, just made it look nicer. I mean, charm is a word, but certainly classier.
Right.
I just don't know how in the world he did the arching window and the cutting, and that was
that's
tricky.
easy. I've done that too. So, we didn't touch on this, but I'll just put this out there as well. So, part of the negotiations that Budget Blinds does with the manufacturer is they offer, and this is unique to Budget Blinds in the industry, we offer a 5-year, no questions asked.
Oh, I was going to ask you about warranty. That's good.
So the manufacturer has their standard warranty, right, on workmanship, right? So if a louver were to, on a shutter, or if on a honeycomb, the what they call a ladder that breaks inside, that's covered. But let's just say that you have a honeycomb and you're having a party and one of your friends accidentally spills wine, if you will, on that honeycomb.
I've done that.
So for the first 5 years, I will replace that shade one time at no cost to you.
Who's actually paying for that? Because there's costs for you to get a new one. There's costs for you to install it. There's got to be insurance.
So the manufacturers are covering that for us.
Oh, all right.
So yeah. So if that happens, and it happens to be a Norman, let's just say a Norman cell shade, I would just call Norman and say, oh, by the way, here's a real life example. Let me just say, so funny. It was what they call a forward blind. I don't want to start getting into different types of window treatments, but it was a forward. The customer called me and said, it's damaged. So the manufacturer wants to know before I call it in, what. The lady said, you're not going to believe this, but my dog ate it. So when
With the homework too?
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah. So when I called that manufacturer and said, hey, I need to call in, and what we call it an NQA, no questions asked warranty.
Right.
They said, okay, for tracking purposes, we need to know.
Right.
And I just started laughing and said, you're not going to believe me, but the dog ate it, so we got to replace it. So we replace that free of charge. Now, listen, that's the product itself. There is a small, slight service fee. And then, for example, mine would be $79. So for me to come out, take the old one down, put the new one on, there's a $79 service.
Which is chump change if you really get down to it. I mean, it's almost like a deductible.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
an
an insurance
good
policy.
way of looking at it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's nothing. So walk me through. So I see you at the road show. You're at the road to the
home show.
Right. And I say, hey, you know what, Jeff, why don't you come on out? Walk me through the process. I say, come on out to the house. You come to the house. Walk me through what happens next.
Great question. So we'll come in, we'll look at all the windows that you have. When I say all, new construction, obviously, it's all of them. If it's a pre-built, it's a used home that you bought, you might just
Like
want to
most
replace.
cases are.
Yeah, so we'll look at the individual needs for each room. That says, tell me about this room. So is this a bedroom?
Needs and wants.
Needs and wants. So this is a bedroom. Do you want room darkening? Do you need to sleep in the morning? So we'll offer a certain product for that.
Right, I got
If
you.
you're not so concerned with that, and you just want light control, we might offer something different. And then after we decide on the product, the color, the style, and all that, we'll measure the windows. They're custom made, so we go down to 1/16 of an inch on these windows. We then place the order. And in about 3.5, 4 weeks out, when it's delivered, my installer will go out. We'll either take down your old stuff, but we'll install the new ones.
What do you do with the old stuff?
So, great question. Depending on what the shape is of them, we will donate that to different organizations. So
Or you can leave it with the owner, right?
we can if they
Yeah.
want them, absolutely. But we try not to fill up the landfill, right? We don't want to just throw things
Well,
away.
the owner
So-
may want them for whatever reason.
to
they
move them in the
want them.
basement.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So if that's the case, we'll leave them. If not, we'll contact a local organization. One for me is Liberty Ministries up in Pottstown.
Yes, yes, yes.
We'll drop some stuff off of that. They'll resell. Then they make the money
Yeah,
that they make. So
of course.
we try to help the environment and help the community.
I imagine it's an out-of-scope item, but you've probably been asked for, hey, Jeff, can you do me a favor, take these and install them downstairs?
Yeah, we do that all
Yeah,
the
I
time.
figured that.
Absolutely.
I figured that.
Yep.
So now the installer comes out, he gets the job done, everything else like that,
Right.
and you're saying it's got a 5-year warranty. What if for some reason during that 5-year period you sold the franchise and then basically it's supported by budget
It
blinds?
goes with budget plans.
So there's never really an issue.
Never. So when we first bought the business, obviously it was previously owned. We had that. We had a couple customers said, "Hey, I need a new one," or it broke. That's my responsibility at that
Right.
point because I took over the ownership of,
Right.
that franchise. So yes,
Right.
you're buying budget blinds. You're not buying me, Jeff, the franchisee. So
Good.
Yep.
Good. Well, this is cool. I thank you very much for it. Is there anything else you want to add?
yeah, just how to get a hold of me. I mean, if anybody's
well, take a
interested,
peek in the camera, and you know what? And we'll just tell the viewers how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So the easiest way is go to budgetblinds with an S at the end.com. It'll prompt you a couple questions in there. Ask your zip code, obviously, to see if you're in mine or somebody else's. You'll type your name. And then the other way is you can always reach out and give us a call. Our office number is 610-399-4950. Or I'll go out on a limb and give you my personal cell phone number, which is 610-715-8208.
Excellent.
All right.
Jeff.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate being
This
here.
was fun.
Absolutely.
This is, owning a franchise is really cool. Being a business owner is really cool, although it does have some downsides because, you can pick when you work, and sometimes you find when you work happens to be all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, separate issue. But, having a franchise, owning a business is absolutely a terrific thing as an individual from the perspective of having a lot of control over your income, et cetera, et cetera. But as you know, business ownership also comes with typically working harder than the next guy. But that's some of the spoils that go with it. But, and Jeff's a good guy, and I know that type of material and stuff is really good for your home, improves the look of it. If you're looking at selling, it'll make a difference there too. So thank you for joining us, and I hope everybody learned a little something today, and hope you have a wonderful day.